So I would start from the first, the most asked question, which relates on to human-centric approach. It was highlighted that Industry 5.0 puts a strong emphasis on human-centric. How can we ensure that this focus doesn't lead to job displacement and exacerbate skill gaps, especially in regions with less access to education and upskilling? I think it's something that has been touched upon during the debate already, but maybe we could make some specific remarks on that very briefly. Shall I start from you, Lina, again, and I will ask you to be brief with some key elements. Thanks.
Very brief. Sometimes I don't think. Obviously, the problem it is in education upskilling. I think even in less developed regions, there are still good education, even high education, good university system in many places. The problem is that these people are not finding opportunities in those places. So I think the problem is most of a brain drain. I go back now to letter report on this right to stay, not only right to move, also right to stay, which I think, and I go back to what I was saying before, this is important because otherwise, since we don't have a fiscal union or anything similar, these people that we are investing in some less developed regions and poorer regions, and they are putting a lot of money on educating their people, on investing on their young people, they are not staying there. They are moving to these innovation hubs somewhere within the country, but also in some places in Europe, and they will be paying their taxes and supporting the welfare state and the pensions of those places and not on the places they have invested on them. So this is a problem really we really need to give a good solution, because otherwise we will be creating more inequalities, and it's not that what we want in order really to be more competitive, to be more sustainable, and to be politically also sustainable. So we have already investment education for less education in those places. The question that we are educating in those places, people are going somewhere else, and sustaining our system and not the system that had invested in them.
Also very important to be closer to the citizens. By the way, thanks for highlighting the right to stay in the letter report. I once was discussing with Enrico Letta, and somebody asked him, what do you think is the most important point of your report? And he really said, for me, it's really important is right to stay, because this is something that, I mean, I don't have time to talk now, but came in a discussion that he had with somebody during his interviews, and said that this is at the essence of what we should do in the EU. We should certainly promote the freedoms to move, but also the conditions to stay, and that is important. Jean-Pascal, from your experience, what can you add?
I share a bit of experience. I don't think it's holistic or something, but basically, I think sometimes when we think about digital technology, we think, oh, we need a new set of skilled workers, etc. But not at all. I mean, the actual guys that we had on the shop floor, with very few training, you can bring them to fully leverage digital data, and actually it helps them on their job. I mean, what we provide as a tool as digital is somehow much more easier than just the machines they operate. So it's not something super as complicated as we might think. So I think it will provide even more job opportunities. People are looking for this. So for us, it's not at all. We don't see that as an issue. Of course, we have practice, we have labs where people can train, discover more, etc. But today it's known in the industry. Today, the retraining of the workforce and how to manage the digital transformation, it's something which is well known. There is not any more surprise. We just have to do it actually, and there is no, and people are ready for this, fully ready. There is no problem.
Maybe we can introduce a second question that can be also answered together by the other panelists, which more specifically is asking what would be, in your views, the key initiatives to further bring Industry 5.0 at regional level. which is very much linked to this previous one. So Judith, maybe I pass you on with the two questions.
I do my best. I'm not sure I'm the right person in the sense that for large companies, at least, there is a capacity to do this, and I think many of them are doing a lot of what you summarize as 5.0, only they don't call it like that, because for them, in a way, it's common sense. So I think, but they also can afford this common sense because they have the financial and geographical and technological basis of the infrastructure and the connections and the knowledge of the people. If you, I think, want to bring Industry 5.0 wider, then I think you have to start seeing what do those need who, or what kind of support or enablers do those need who could use it and who could profit from it and whose workforce could profit from it, but who, for whichever reason, don't have the bandwidth to actually implement it on their own. And I would look at those companies. I think you put the threshold as about below 2 billion revenue. It's a fairly large company, yeah, already. But I would say look for those where you see this is actually not happening, but they might be gaining from it. And where at the same time there is enough scale to say you actually create a fairly sizable impact if you manage to find a way that works for them. And then you will probably also see that many of them are quite dispersed all over Europe, so they're not only in the big centers, and that may address some of the cohesion issues, and then it might trickle down. But I would say look at what's there and look at how you can help what's there. It's better, I think, than coming up with something very theoretical that when you're then basically chasing reality.
Jean-Pascal.
Yeah, to complement quickly, 70% of mid-sized companies do have multi-countries industrial sites. So to your point about geographies, it's really a European approach that we need to have when we tackle industrial topics such as Industry 5.0. And each one of those factories, they do have suppliers from other countries or customers in other countries. So to think about industry on a national approach in Europe, it does not make sense. Industry is a European by definition. This is what I think.
Lini,
Very briefly, we have made a huge effort, at least in the last term, to include, because I'm the rapporteur or shadow rapporteur of many of them, to include more geographical balance on EIC, on EIT. I mean, just trying also that all the institutions and all the mechanisms we have really can reach, but it is difficult unless we improve our synergies between cohesion funds and Horizon Europe or the framework program, whatever it will come, because sometimes the problem that those regions that are less developed or the small and medium companies or universities or research centers in those areas is that they lack sometimes the administrative capacity. I mean, the capacities, they're very physical sometimes, the capacities to can be able to compete in Europe or even to collaborate and to cooperate with other own interests. So we really need to also to put or to improve the capacity of those regions and all the institutions in those regions, on those areas, really to be able to build up these capacities. And also sometimes it's just a question of administrative support. This is very clear in research, but not only.
Yeah, thank you. I think that improving synergy and complementarity between our actions and programs is one of the key elements that will guide the future long-term budget. Andrea and Guido. Andrea, to you, any points you want to add?
I'll try to tackle briefly the overarching question. I mean, will there be job displacement? It's an easy answer. We don't know. Especially, there's the first half of my answer. I'm going to complement it, but we don't know. Meaning, after the release of generative AI systems, in particular when ChatGPT entered the market towards the end of 2022, I remember the European Commission and the US administration, in the context of the Trade and Technology Council, released a report, a joint report, Council of Economic Advisors and European Commission, where they said, well, remember all these pages written by whatever, David Autor at the MIT, or Eric Brink-Johnson, or even Darren Acemoglu's recent Nobel Prize. Okay, turn the page, because with generative AI systems, we actually think that many more intellectual tasks and cognitively loaded tasks will be potentially replaceable. So, for example, the ILO, the International Labour Organization, published a report together with the Global Partnership on AI, in which basically, well, if I had seen a PhD thesis like this, I would have just said, okay, you come back in 6 months or a year because you haven't done the job. Because the report basically says, we know of the job market that we are sure about 10-15% of the employment is an employment where there will be augmentation by AI. There's like 7-8% where we are pretty sure there will be replacement. All the rest is the big unknown. And say, what kind of finding is this? Basically, we don't know. And so this is just a qualified lie. I'm telling you, we don't know. Now, the second half of my answer is, the good thing is that it depends on us, right? It depends on us how we approach the introduction of technologies in the marketplace, and whether we do it in a human-centric way, in a way that is human augmenting as opposed to human replacing. There will be the replacement and displacement of several tasks. People that tell you that tasks don't convert into jobs lie, and so if many tasks are being replaced, this also means there will be less jobs, but there will be other types of jobs that might emerge. And the good thing that we're seeing there is that the skills that will be needed in order to really complement machines are not the skills that we've been talking about over the past 10 years. We had a big wave of talking about STEM, coding, and that's it. That everybody had to become a coder. Today you ask GPT or whatever, a code whisperer or a co-pilot to write the code for you, and then you ask yourself, really, was it a good idea to study coding so much, to devote, because today actually you do text to code by really using your normal language, and of course you need to control a little bit the code that comes out of it, but basically that is not a skill that will define you as a worker, and it's not a skill that makes for a good job. And I'm going to use this in the final part of my answer. The expression good jobs is an expression that was used in that part of the world where capitalism has led to a lot of polarization and inequality. The Biden administration has incorporated good jobs coming from the work of economists like Danny Roderick or others into big pieces of legislation, big interventions in industrial policy, such as the CHIPS Act or the Inflation Reduction Act, or even something that goes into the regional dimension, which is the Regional Innovation Engines program, which looks not in California or Massachusetts, it looks in Montana or North Dakota. So it tries to give a frontier and an opportunity to those areas that typically are cut out of the big technological progress. So we have now someone that actually, unbelievably, is teaching us a lesson that we should have taught them, right? That you could introduce jobs-related conditionalities in industrial policy. A good job being a job that empowers workers, that trains workers, and so not the data cleaner, right? It's a job that empowers a worker as an integral part of an organization. So final bit, sorry, Maria Cristina, is the regional dimension because of this. Not every region can become California or Darmstadt or the area of Paris or, unfortunately, London, which is our top AI hub in Europe, right? Innovation in specific technologies, in particular general purpose technologies and digital technologies, is concentrated. So by simply saying everybody should get a share of it, we're not going to get anywhere. But different regions can have different frontiers, so you need to study. We do this with also in the ASIR group with an approach of economic complexity and economic geography. You study the technological specialization of individual regions, you build a frontier for them, you study the relatedness of the specialization of different sub-regions of Europe, and you build incentives for regions to get where they can get and partake in the benefits that the industrial transformation can generate. This is, in my opinion, a way to organize a just transition. In the past 5 years, just transition was most often an afterthought. Let's say, let the Green Deal happen, let's compensate the ones that are more intensive on fossil fuels. This cannot happen in this way. A just transition is just from day one. It's just like in the product design, as you were saying before, it's also in the policy design that you incorporate the right conditionalities and the fairness and the equitable nature of the outcomes. And I think this is an effort that we need to make all together, because otherwise, the endogenous part of this, which is we can decide the policies and we can somehow steer the outcomes in terms of job creation, the creation of good jobs in particular, that will vanish, because we will not retain any control and any directionality on when industry might end up leading us.
Thank you. you, Andrea. I think a lot has to be done in this respect, building on what has already been done, and also one of the key flagships of this next commission, the Clean Industrial Deal, could hopefully pave the way for that. Guido, a final remark on this point?
Oh, no.
We can share.
No, no. So, yeah, I fully agree what Andrea said about the regional dimension. I think Industry 5.0 can be acted as a lever for regional development, because we have many tools existing already at the regional level, like smart specialization technologies, industrial clusters. We have all kinds of intermediaries that incubators, knowledge and innovation communities. So if you use these instruments to integrate the dimension of Industry 5.0, I think, and I fully agree with you, that it can be an actor to promote regional development. And I very much like the idea from the right to stay, and we have to work on that. And Industry 5.0 could be helpful for that. I didn't agree with you about displacement of jobs, because, I don't know, when I compare, automation of jobs will continue in industry. So the number of jobs in industry has started to decrease already for decades, and it will continue further to decrease. The number of blue-collar jobs in industry will decrease, and at the end of the day, manufacturing workers will become knowledge workers, but there will be less. So, and this is leading to polarization of our labor market, because industry used to be an employer for good quality jobs for blue-collar workers. And this is, it created the middle class. Industry created the middle class of blue-collar workers. This has disappeared. And this is creating tensions in our societies, tensions in the labor markets. So, yeah, industry as an employer of good job for blue-collar workers, this role will disappear. And then I made myself the reflection, yes, when we are discussing Industry 5.0 compared to Industry 4.0, is Industry 5.0 is not equal to Industry 4.0 minus the manual workers. And the remaining workers will be the knowledge workers, which by definition have already an interesting job. So, but that's some food for thought.
Well, thank you very much for your remarks. I think that with that we reached the end of this high-level panel, which has been very interesting. I think we could continue forever, but we have a very full program today. So let me thank each of you, and I would like to ask to applaud our 5 speakers.
Thank you. And our moderator.
Thank you very much. I think that I can just conclude by saying that the work that we have done so far is very relevant, that we need to continue this work, and we need really to be able to take up the challenge and the opportunity that we have now with this new commission, with the new priorities of the president, where prosperity is at the heart of it. So we should continue to work together in that direction. So thank you very much.
Thank you for moderating.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You are the author of these documents.